likely to lift into low cloud rather than clearing completely. So it will be quite a grey day for the majority of us on Saturday. Having said that, a few brighter spells, most likely I think across some northeastern parts of England and Scotland. Temperature-wise, nothing particularly special, and it will feel fairly chilly underneath all that cloud. Then overnight Saturday into Sunday, we won't see quite as much fog as we have done over some recent nights because of that cloud, which will be fairly stubborn. So a fairly cloudy night, keeping temperatures a little bit higher than they have been of late, but still a rural frost is likely. Then into Sunday, we start to see this weather front gradually edging its way southeastwards across the country. That will bring a band of thicker cloud and some patchy outbreaks of mainly light rain and drizzle. A few brighter spells ahead of it, but clearer conditions following on behind and turning a little bit cooler than it has been, particularly across parts of Scotland. High pressure remains with us into next week, with further frost and fog, but becoming increasingly breezy.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world. If
you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Big stories, big opinions, big laughs coming up. In Headliners, I'll be joined by two very premium and, let's be honest, very available comedians. But first, here's Polly with the headlines.
Good evening, I'm Polly Middlehurst with your latest GB News. The former Director General of the government's COVID task force, Kate Josephs, has apologised for holding leaving drinks in December 2020 when indoor socialising was banned. It comes after it emerged two parties were held the day before the Duke of Edinburgh's funeral in May. Downing Street apologised, saying it was deeply regrettable they took place at a time of national mourning. Restrictions meant the Queen had to sit alone for her husband's funeral the following day. The Duke of York's former assistant is among those who could provide testimony in the civil sex abuse trial in the United States. Virginia Giuffre's lawyers have requested support from UK courts to help obtain evidence from Robert Olney. It comes as Miss Giuffre says she wants to expose the truth. Prince Andrew denies the allegations against him. He has been stripped of his royal patronages and military titles. Novak Djokovic's defence of his Australian Open title hangs in the balance. The Serbian is currently in talks with immigration officials and his lawyers, who will help him prepare his case ahead of an appeal on Sunday. It follows the Australian government's decision to revoke his visa for a second time, saying it was in the public interest. The first Grand Slam of the year begins Monday. Police in Ireland say they've made significant progress in the investigation of the murder of 23-year-old teacher Aisling Murphy. Thousands gathered at vigils across Ireland, including the Taoiseach Micheál Martin in Dublin, to remember Aisling. She was found dead on Wednesday after going for a run in Tullamore, County Offaly. Ireland's Deputy Premier, Leo Varadkar, says the country is in shock. Russia is expecting to pursue legal action against alleged hackers of Ukrainian government websites, according to a senior US official. Soviet intelligence confirms the country has charged members of the crime group Revil at the request of the US. It's a rare collaboration between the US and Russia at a time of high tensions between the two countries. The announcement comes after a cyber attack today that shut down around 70 Ukrainian sites, including the Treasury and National Emergency Service. Here, the first female officer to command the British Army's No. 1 training regiment is taking over the job from her husband. 42-year-old Lieutenant Colonel Lindsay Kelly will be leading 165 members of staff at the Army Training Centre in Purbright in Surrey. She assumes command from her husband, Seamus, who plans to continue working in the regiment's headquarters as well. On DAB Plus radio, on TV and online, this is GB News. Now more from headliners.
You're watching Headliners, and it's me, Mark Dolan, in the host's chair tonight, tomorrow and Sunday. It's a brilliant format. It's very popular. Two top comedians helping me react to the big stories from tomorrow's newspaper front pages. Before we meet tonight's stars, let's have a look at tomorrow's papers. And let's start, if we can, with the Daily Mail newspaper. Starmer, the COVID party hypocrite. Starmer was pictured drinking beer at an indoor gathering when restrictions were in place, say the Daily Mail. But guess what? He says it was a work event. So Keir Starmer was accused of brazen hypocrisy last night over pictures of him enjoying a drink with colleagues during lockdown. Meanwhile, The Independent, Operation Save Big Dog, an apology to the palace, a COVID restrictions chief who hosted lockdown drinks and calls to quit from 70% of Britons. Now Johnson has a plan for his officials to take the fall for Partygate, and he's calling it the aforementioned Operation Big Dog. Well, can Boris be saved? I'm sure that will come up in tonight's conversation. It is the topic of my big opinion monologue, which you'll find right now on our GB News Twitter feed. Daily Telegraph, Plan B to be scrapped as PM plots fight back. And COVID chief had party during restrictions that she created. Well, there's a surprise. The Guardian, Tory grassroots fury grows as Number 10 apologises to the Queen. And Djokovic's Australian Open hopes are ebbing away. The FT weekend, US accuses Russia of creating Ukraine pretext for invasion, of course, increasing tensions around what's happening with Russia and the Ukraine. Of course, they annexed the Crimea in 2014. Could worse be yet to come? The Daily Mirror, Partygate exclusive, Boris's Wine Time Fridays. Whoever came up with that headline was clearly in the middle of a party themselves. Downing Street staff held weekly Wine Time Fridays as the nation was under strict COVID curbs. Newspaper, PM wounded, Sunak and Truss prepare for contest. The Times, you are in last chance saloon, PM is warned. Daily Express, devoted Queen deserves better than this. The Sun, PM's Partygate apology. Sorry, Ma'am. Now it's your turn to say sorry, Prince Andrew. And finally, the Daily Star. COVID task force boss admits breaking own COVID rules for bash. Will the last of Bozo's flunkies caught having a lockdown party please turn out the lights? There you go. Those are your headlines. And we'll get a full and detailed reaction from my brilliant panellists. So, reacting to tomorrow's newspaper front pages, we have the creme de la creme of the comedy world. Tonight, the loquacious and dangerously handsome Leo Kearse.
Hey, no, that's not me. That's the handsome one. Oh my gosh.
Thanks, Josh.
Oh no,
I appreciate that.
And a man who needs no adjectives, Josh Howie.
That's him.
That's the other
That's
one.
him.
I feel sorry
Yeah,
for the people at home because they were expecting someone really handsome, and then I came up on the cat. I'm sorry. I apologise.
Listen, you're
And
a
I
double threat.
apologise if I was also not handsome enough.
Listen, you've both got brains and beauty, as you're about to demonstrate over the next hour or so. Now, Saturday's Telegraph is reporting an end to the current COVID restrictions. Josh, tell us more.
So the restrictions came in by coincidence on the day where all the Christmas party thing was really kicking off in December. Now, Plan B is now going to be rescinded. Coincidentally, again. So before it was like the dead cat. Like everyone kept on saying it's a dead cat. Now what he's trying to do is bring the cat back to life. That's what's essentially happening now, to try and distance himself or create some sort of distraction from everything that's going on and all these revelations that are revealed about.
I think the problem is that the flavour of these attacks on Boris Johnson, the 70% of people supposedly that want him to go, I mean, this is wishful thinking. I don't think he's going anywhere because I don't think Liz Truss, Leo, or Rishi Sunak want to be in post before those May elections.
I think it's a good time to take over. I mean, when things are this bad and we're coming out of the pandemic, that's a great place to be. You wouldn't want to be going into the pandemic as Boris was after his election. I mean, I'm not sure if I trust these figures. I think people are angry right now, but I mean, throughout his career, Boris has had a lot of popularity. Although at the moment, he seems to be snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. As much as people criticise the government's handling, they've actually done all right, and we're looking much better. Coming out of the pandemic, assuming we're coming out, than other countries. I mean, in Ireland and on the continent, they're still in various lockdowns. In Scotland and Wales as well. So Boris has really sort of dropped the ball at the wrong moment, or rather, Dominic Cummings has kicked it out of his hands.
Yeah, I mean, do you think his departure from high office is now inevitable?
It's not. I mean, it's so far he's been completely Teflon. But I mean, I think this might be a step too far. I mean, the next story is about it as well. And I mean, it's really. It's not just the people. I mean, people were saying, they couldn't attend funerals and visit people in hospital, and they're saying that as a bad thing. I mean, I'd personally thank the government for not forcing me to visit my nan in hospital. I mean, they should be thanking Boris. But at the same time as people weren't allowed to do that. Boris was having events in his house, and then he's lying and saying, I'm not sure, I can't recall. It was in your house. Yeah. It was where you live. How can you not remember a party in your own gaff?
It's the fact that I don't think anybody, and I just thought of it now, in the people, there was a trauma of that first lockdown, and I don't think it's really been addressed in the nation's psyche. And I think, in a weird way, because this is taking us back to those times, and people are sort of remembering, wait a minute, this is what it was like, and then comparing that to these parties and stuff. I think the reason why there's so much anger there is not just the hypocrisy, it's an anger against us being in that lockdown in the first place. Yeah. I think it's a pushback against that.
I think you're absolutely right, and I think the elephant in the room is, in my view, the absurdity of the COVID measures rather than the fact that they were being ignored by the elite.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of almost reassuring to see that even the people making the rules thought they were nonsense. Which a lot of us
and they clearly weren't afraid of COVID by the looks of it.
No,
I think by then, obviously, some evidence had come out that at the outside, certainly it was safe. And the idea that at the time, 5 kids, don't have a garden, we're going to the park near us, and the police are pushing us on after going, how long have you been here? Oh, you've been 50 minutes, you've got to go. So I've got a little 2-year-old here.
Can I just say that always happens to your family because
that's true. Well, to be
your
fair,
children they're wrong uns, aren't they?
They're just loud. They were just mugging people. It was a horrible scene. So it was fair enough to be. But yeah, this whole thing is it's ridiculous. What I love, there's a line in this that says scientists appear to have provided evidence that offers support for the change. As they do. That's what Sage is very good at, finding that evidence, whatever that is needed at the time.
So this Plan B, are we actually under COVID restrictions right now?
Yes, we are.
But what
stay at home. Stay at home advice.
I can't kiss you.
Right.
Okay, that's one.
Face masks. That's right. That's a permanent rule, which I've just introduced. But there is a mask mandate in shops and on public transport, and essentially a kind of mandate to work from home if you possibly can.
Right. Because I had noticed a lot of people wearing masks on the tube, but I thought we weren't really under any restrictions anymore.
They definitely are.
Yeah, there are also COVID passports for large events as well. So there are a few measures which are expected to disappear at the end of January, certainly in England. I mean, do you think that granting freedom to the British people will be enough to get Boris off the hook?
I think, you just can't tell with him because, as you said, he's Teflon. He has gotten away with everything in the past.
Yeah.
And the worst thing is, people expect it of him. It's not like we sort of have this pure idea of what he's like. We expect him to lie.
Well, Boris being sort of rubbish and unreliable is essentially...
That's his shtick.
It is priced into his brand.
Exactly.
It's what people voted for.
That's why he keeps his hair messy. That is a conscious decision.
Yeah.
And but I do agree that I don't think that people do want him to go. In terms of the politicians, I don't think Labour want him to go because now he's a toxic brand. He's just going to take their polling down further, the Conservatives further. And I don't think that the Conservative people who possibly overtake, that this is not a good time for them necessarily to come in either.
I think Boris might want to go, though, because apparently he's broke. He's got, however many children, 17 children. He's got to send them all to private school. He's got all these costs. He's getting an MP salary, but he's not getting the money he used to get from his Telegraph columns and all the rest of it.
Quarter of a million for his Telegraph columns.
He's got a swing to buy. Someone broke his swing.
You've got to fix the little boy's swing. That's right. Wilfred's swing.
Wilfred's swing.
I wonder if Boris sat on that one.
That would smash the whole apparatus. Yeah.
You know, it's like quite often people know they've got to lose weight when they see holiday photos or if they break a child's swing. Those are the little moments. Those are the triggers, aren't they?
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it, Leo? Because according to the Times newspaper, Number 10 have apologised to the Queen, and I think that's not a great look for Boris, is it?
This is, so we've already had the mass revulsion at these parties because everybody was under lockdown rules. The parties were held, as the lockdown rules were being brought in. So it's a real, thumb in the face for the people. But then this is imagery for anybody who cares about the royal family. This is quite sombre imagery. So at the time, the country was in a period of national mourning. So this is after Prince Philip's death. And only hours after the Downing Street partygoers filed out, the Queen was forced to sit alone at her husband's socially distanced funeral at Windsor Castle. So that's, that's quite a powerful image.
Wearing her mask. It was a horrible thing to see,
Yeah, I mean, it was just exactly the opposite of what was happening at Number 10, and that's why it's so damning, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And also, at what was going on in the rest of the country, that same night, a woman had a birthday party in East London and was she's been fined £12,000 for this birthday party. And the police gave her this big lecture how disrespectful it was. I mean, again, the hypocrisy.
Yes.
I mean, this woman should get her money back. I think there's been hundreds, I think there's been a couple of thousand people who've been fined and stuff. They should get their money back.
Yes, some of the overreaches of police have been ridiculous. There was the grandmother, an 82-year-old, who had a socially distanced cup of tea in the garden of the communal garden of our social housing, and the police went around and knocked her up and gave her a warning.
They knocked her up?
They knocked, it was a miracle of modern science.
Can I just say, is that really punishment?
I'll have to ask her.
I would have thought that was the highlight of her lockdown.
If Leo turned up, she'd be happy.
82-year-old woman gets knocked up. I tell you.
If it was me who turned up, I don't think she'd be
now she's got to raise a child in her 90s. And it's a tragedy, so... Yeah.
Well, look, we'll change, I guess, the tone slightly as we reflect on what's happening in Ukraine, because the FT are reporting that this sabre rattling from Vladimir Putin, it's getting more serious, isn't it?
It is. I mean, what's happened yesterday was that they basically, Ukraine has been under cyber attack, and I think that all these government websites have gone down, about 70 government websites, and it's scary. They're also, the US is saying that there's this black flag, false flag operation possibly, where they basically sent people behind enemy lines to make it seem like their own troops are being attacked or their own proxies are being attacked, and that's a way for the Russians to then, a pretext for them to sort of start another war. So it's very scary for the Ukraine. And
they annexed the Crimea in 2014, which
no one did anything.
The West turned a blind eye to, and it's getting more serious. I mean, what do you think is the end game for Vladimir Putin? Is he simply trying to reassemble the USSR?
think he kind of is. I mean, he went into Kazakhstan the other day.
I mean,
Leo, you used to work for the Foreign Office.
Yeah, I did.
I believe, I'm told, by the way, that you mostly attended parties.
yeah, only during lockdown.
Apparently there was one party where you knocked up an 82-year-old woman. But that's another story.
Aren't fun unless there's a lockdown going on. Everybody knows that.
Of course.
So, yeah, no, I mean, I used to work for the Foreign Office. I wasn't particularly good at it, so that's why I'm doing this now.
You should have been Foreign Secretary.
Yeah. Normally you get promoted in the civil service if you're not very good. But yeah, I mean, Putin, he sees the fall of the USSR as terrible. He views it almost as Hitler saw the fall of Germany, so partly wants to reassemble it, but the Ukraine, parts of the eastern Ukraine want to, identify very strongly with Russia, but most of the Ukraine does not. And Putin, it looks like he's going to go in and occupy Ukraine, and he's going to get bogged down in an interminable conflict of occupation, and Ukraine's going to be very difficult for him to actually stay in. If you thought we had trouble in Ireland or Iraq, this is going to be a new level of hell for him. And it's going to look terrible for him as well. He wants to stop the expansion of NATO, but if anything, this is going to give NATO a reason an excuse. Yeah.
But I wonder if this whole sort of saber-rattling thing, if it just suits him to not go in because he just needs an enemy.
Yeah.
And this is what he's... And the stuff, the propaganda, I mean, they would say that this is the propaganda, but the real... We're the real propaganda people. The stuff they're saying...
That's on GBNews, so you can trust it.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
But the stuff that they're saying is totally mad.
He's like the guy in the pub that says he's going to cause trouble. Never quite happens, but he's got that look.
Yeah, and unfortunately he has the ability to do something about it.
And he's got mates.
He's got a couple of mates.
Because they've got 100,000 troops amassed on the border, and they said earlier this week they couldn't go into the Ukraine because the ground was too soft. So they haven't had the hard frost.
Well, that's woke soldiers for you.
They've got, I don't know if British Rail are building their tanks. They've got the wrong kind of leaves on the ground. But
it is deeply concerning. And Ukraine is a beautiful country. It used to be known as the breadbasket of Europe. It's got amazing agriculture, a lot of industries. It's actually a successful economy as well. It's a relatively rich country, considering its neighbours in that region, and they do not want to be under Soviet rule. They don't want to be under Russian rule under any circumstances.
Well, they can probably remember it.
Yeah. Well, too right. And the issue you've got is, will Joe Biden, who famously removed forces from Afghanistan so embarrassingly last year, has this guy got the stomach for a battle with Vladimir Putin?
Absolutely not.
No,
he doesn't. And that's why NATO is so important at the moment. But I do also like the language that people use, like the EU foreign minister's office. Someone said, this is talking about all the websites being taken down and the hacking. They said, I can't blame anybody as I have no proof, but we can imagine. It's like,
you can just imagine.
Oh, let's use our imaginations, everybody. Yeah, why did you say it was Russia?
Yeah, too right. Well, look, lots more stories to come. You're watching Headliners, and we've got a busy 40 minutes. Coming up, we've got the Prince's drama, China's denial, and Sir Keir's party. First, the weather.
Hello, fog and frost to start this weekend once again for many of us. Quite a lot of clouds then through the rest of the day on Saturday before it brightens up for many of us on Sunday. Now, high pressure has been with us for quite some time, still in charge of the weather at the moment, but we do have these weather fronts waiting in the wings, and they will start to influence our weather during the course of this weekend. But before then, fog and frost are the order of the day. Overnight tonight, reforming quite widely, particularly across parts of England and Wales. Central and eastern England particularly prone, I think, to some fairly dense fog patches tonight and into the start of the day tomorrow. And we do have a weather warning in force. Also a frost forming fairly extensively once again, perhaps not quite as chilly though as some recent nights. So Saturday will start on rather a grey note for many of us. Any fog slow to lift and likely to lift into low cloud rather than clearing completely. So it will be quite a grey day for the majority of us on Saturday. Having said that, a few brighter spells, most likely I think across some northeastern parts of England and Scotland. Temperature-wise, nothing particularly special, and it will feel fairly chilly underneath all that cloud. Then overnight Saturday into Sunday, we won't see quite as much fog as we have done over some recent nights because of that cloud, which will be fairly stubborn. So a fairly cloudy night, keeping temperatures a little bit higher than they have been of late, but still a rural frost is likely. Then into Sunday, we start to see this weather front gradually edging its way southeastwards across the country. That will bring a band of thicker cloud and some patchy outbreaks of mainly light rain and drizzle. A few brighter spells ahead of it, but clearer conditions following on behind and turning a little bit cooler than it has been, particularly across parts of Scotland. High pressure remains with us into next week, with further frost and fog, but becoming increasingly breezy.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
You're watching Headliners. I'm Mark Dolan, and with me to look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages are the brilliant comedians Leo Kearse and Josh Howie. Now, Saturday's Independent is reporting on Prince William being instrumental in removing Prince Andrew's titles. Leo, that's a bit of a family rivalry, isn't it?
Yeah, things aren't looking good for Prince Andrew, so he's been stripped of his military titles and will have to defend. His lawyer was trying to get the civil case, sexual assault lawsuit against him overturned because a previous case meant that it wouldn't be admissible. But he will have to face it. He'll have to face it as a private citizen. So apparently Charles and William, this is according to the Daily Mail, but it's reported in the Independent. Charles and William had been instrumental in the decision to strip him of his titles and urged the Queen to remove him from the royal family. So he's still in line to the throne, but he's not referred to as his Royal Highness anymore.
That's great. So if he does become king, right, God forbid, but if then he's got no title, so he's just known as Andy or something.
Yeah,
but Big Andy.
Yeah.
But he's still a prince, though, isn't he?
He's still Prince Andrew, and I think he's still the Duke of York for now as well.
So,
right.
I mean, when it was...
But he's lost his patronage.
So if York goes into battle against Somerset, then he will lead the troops. I mean,
most
It
certainly
seems like his military appointments and... who cares what that matters? No, he still gets to be called Prince. He still gets to be Duke of York. That's not real punishment. They're like, we're going to be really hard on him.
well, I think the real punishment could come with this case.
Yes.
That's,
Well, this- yes.
I mean, things are looking... I think the only way out for him at the moment is to convert to Islam, and then the media and the establishment will ignore it for 20 years.
Well, they might just... I mean, the issue is that this is such a bitter family issue now, isn't it? I mean, on a personal level, this must be pretty brutal for the prince. He's got his
Andrew.
Yeah, because he's got his well, yeah, because
Supposedly he's the favourite. Supposedly he's the Queen's favourite.
Yeah.
So, but by all accounts, he's just obviously in that interview he did not come across very bright and also he's very arrogant and and it's seemingly he has been he's certainly been accused of committing some quite heinous crimes here. So I have no sympathy for him.
Well, I've got some sympathy for him because, I mean, you can imagine you got to, you take Jeffrey Epstein's plane to the island and you're like, what is this? Am I allowed to do this? And then you look to your left, there's Bill Clinton. You look to your right, there's Bill Gates. You'd be like, well, if they're doing it.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, I'm just all I can think about is the court cases. I mean, that's the thing. This one is just going to run and run, isn't it? And whether or not he settles out of court, or perhaps he's is vindicated, because of course, he vehemently denies these allegations, and we should obviously point that out. But either way, the guy's done, isn't he? He's toast.
Oh, completely. And I don't think from a reputational point of view he can settle out of court. And also his accuser has said she's not just looking for a financial settlement. So I don't think that's going to be an option for him. And every avenue he's tried to sort of get the court on legal technicalities, get the case dismissed. They haven't worked. So it looks like, and also other people are going to be dragged in. His
daughter Beatrice,
Sarah Ferguson.
Yeah, it's not good. And also, but there's a part of me who wants this to go to court as well, just to sort of find out about the Pizza Express, find out his sort of sweating situation.
Yeah.
I get this under oath and do the experiments and
maybe put him in a mobile sauna and just see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't just question him under oath. Question him under heat.
Some proper medical experiments on him.
Yeah, or maybe he could take part in Strictly and he's got to do the foxtrot whilst answering questions.
And not sweating.
Not a bead of sweat.
I think it'd be safer on ice.
By the way, I mean, haven't all families got an embarrassing uncle?
Well, not one like this.
I know your nephew, so yes.
Yes, exactly. You do. I'm weird Uncle Mark. Do you have odd uncles, either of you? It's a tough gig. It's a tough gig being an uncle, isn't it?
No, I think it's a tough gig. I was a great uncle, and then I had kids, and then I just utterly ignored
You dropped them, basically.
So I was like, oh no, now I have other people to love.
Yeah. Your nephews and nieces lost their titles.
Absolutely, and now I've actually, to be honest, and then my eldest has lost his as well. You can only focus on 2 kids at the same time, really.
Let's be honest. Now, next up from the Daily Mail, the Chinese Communist Party denied Christine Lee was a spy. But surely we've got every reason to believe them, Josh.
Yeah, of course we have to believe China. Now, I don't know, is GB News, are we pro-China or not?
Very much so.
Are we owned by China?
There is
what am I meant to say here?
There is a small investment of $200 billion in
GB News
from the Chinese Communist Party.
So
it just so happens that I think the President Xi is a great guy.
He's a lovely guy.
I'll leave that there.
I actually got a memo saying I've got to stand up and salute when I hear his name.
Yeah,
exactly
we're all meant to be wearing red, I believe, as well. Look, you might notice we've got a red background sometimes. So
no, there is no Chinese money in GB News.
Okay, in that case, they're guilty.
The problem is that so much of this country is invested in China and vice versa.
Well, that is what's funny, because they basically said, one of the foreign minister spokesperson said, we have no need to buy influence. And because they have bought it, we don't need to buy influence because we already own half of you. Yeah. So they don't need to do it, but they have done this, and it's sort of ridiculous because they're sort of saying that it's sensational remarks and it's based on hearsay evidence. No, there are hundreds or thousands of pounds that have been given to politicians by this person, and
Labour front bench politician.
Yeah, very good. There's very fun. The article I read here didn't have it, but I read another article where someone said, "Why would they give money to him? He's an idiot."
Yeah, and also the Labour Party are substantially more communist than the Chinese Communist Party.
Is that?
Yeah, well,
I can't speak about that.
Listen, it's all about opinions. No, the
Chinese Communist Party's got some money, so.
Well, it's a fair point, by the way. I look, in the end, as you say, the genie's out of the bottle, isn't it, Leo? In terms of the power that China has over us. I mean, it's going to be, in the next couple of decades, the world's predominant economic superpower.
Well, yeah, it's a huge colonial force. It's funny how everybody in this country is up in arms about colonialism that happened 400 years ago, and nobody seems to care about the fact that China is now by
China's got slave labour. It's torturing its own people. There are no human rights, and it's also got a kind of territorial global plan.
Western companies are contracting the Chinese government to use Uyghur Muslim slaves, which is, it's shocking.
They're committing
Hundreds
genocide.
of thousands.
They're not the good guys suppressing democracy.
Who knew? And on that controversy...
Unless GB News is being funded.
Absolutely right.
Take everything back.
And President Xi, thanks so much for watching the programme. Now, let's talk about a story in the Saturday Express. With all this Tory tumult, we've forgotten that lefties love their champagne too. Leo, tell me more.
Yeah, so Keir Starmer has been branded an absolute hypocrite for attacking Boris Johnson for Boris's illegal parties in Number 10 because pictures have surfaced, they've resurfaced, of him drinking with colleagues during lockdown. So Keir has said that the image was taken from outside the window of a constituency office in Durham, but he says it was a work event. And everybody seems to be getting absolutely lathered at these work events. I mean, I feel should we have a bottle of rum down here? I mean, are we missing out? Yeah. But yeah, this seems to be the excuse they say. I mean, I guess where is the line? If you're a politician, where is the work?
I might install a swing in the studio so you can sit on it and break it.
That would be nice.
Look, the difference is it wasn't a party. He's drinking, they're having dinner because it was a late night Zoom work event and he had a beer with his dinner. That is a massive difference to actual champagne and gardens.
Bring your own booze.
And lots of things. I think the fact that they say themselves, this drinking picture resurfaces. No, it's like it was hidden somewhere. No, they published it when it first came out. No one cared because he has a valid reason for it. He's allowed to drink a beer with his dinner. And now we're trying to bring it up again. And the fact that they're using this, they've only got one photo that they can use that has already been explained away, shows how little ammunition the right-wing press has to attack Keir Starmer.
But I don't
He's basically a pretty good guy.
Yeah.
I
don't know. I mean, I think everybody owes Lawrence Fox an apology. He was getting slaughtered by lefties. Everybody who had a hashtag Be Kind, hashtag FBP in their Twitter bio was slamming him for having some quiet drinks with his friends.
Because those Be Kind people are the biggest hypocrites in the world. But the difference here is that he isn't a hypocrite. He's not a perfect human. But they did their big investigations into him when he became leader, and they found that he had this donkey. He owns some land. It turns out it's a donkey sanctuary that he bought for his mum.
Yeah.
And that's the worst they've ever been able to find on him. When Corbyn came out, and they were, everyone was on the left, the far left, was saying, "Oh my God, the right-wing media's got it into." No, the point is there was ammunition there, and they kept on finding it because we're talking 20 or 30 years worth of just pure crankery. So they could find all of these photos of him with terrorists and whatever. They aren't finding that stuff with Keir, so they're having to use some old one photo. I think it's a good thing that they're bringing this photo back because it shows how little they have.
But I wonder if it is a bit of a party.
Sorry,
because
I got all a bit Leo. I got a bit Leo Curse there.
I've got some sartorial notes to make, which is that he's not wearing a tie, he's got an open neck shirt on, and he's wearing his party glasses.
Oh my God!
Have you got party glasses?
I can only afford one pair. We'll see how things go.
There you go.
Quite jazzy.
China, please get in touch.
There you go.
We'll see if I can get some more.
We'll take your money any time. Next up in Saturday's Telegraph, Novak Djokovic is in trouble once again. Josh, tell me more.
So I feel like, sorry, I went on a bit too much about that one. It just really...
No, you're welcome. It's all about opinions.
I actually got wound up for the first time. That's quite interesting.
Josh, can I tell you, I think it's the first time in many years that you've appeared to care about anything.
I know, it's very strange. And you were at my children's brisses. That's where
your wife, actually, she wishes that you looked at her the way you look at Keir Starmer.
I know.
When he's at a party.
we sort of put him on the phone, put him in the background doing his...
bit of a Starmer loving.
No, I just think that he's the best hope that we have at this country at the moment.
Okay.
That's how I feel.
Keir Starmer is the best hope.
I don't think he's perfect.
Oh my God, I might just stick my head in the oven now.
Compared to what we've had in the last 5 years and the politicians, I believe that this is actually someone who does have integrity. That's what I think.
I think he's got too much integrity. The only bad thing he's done is buying a donkey sanctuary and having a beer next to a window. Yeah, oh my God, I want somebody with some... I can't identify with that guy.
I want a boring person who wants to actually make a positive difference in this
drugs and illegitimate children.
Okay, well, you've
So
got
Boris,
it. You've got it.
You're halfway there. Well, look, Josh,
Sorry, so let's
one
play this
drug
point.
that Novak Djokovic doesn't want to reveal his status of having had is the vaccine. So tell us about Djokovic.
Well, this is just going on. It's kind of amazing. It's a kind of I don't want to swear anything, but it's basically a cock-up. Can I say that?
You can say
I
that.
can say that on both sides. He's not come out of it well, obviously, for various reasons, because he filled in the form wrongly or lied. Because of he had COVID and he's hanging out with people. And the Australian government have come out terribly from this, just from the miscommunication. They're giving him visa, they're taking it away. It's just it seems so arbitrary. And also, cases spiking. So it's not a case of like him going in and actually causing more COVID. They're just doing it to be spiteful.
Yeah.
What I like was when his family, who seem hilarious from the interviews I've seen with them, but they said that when he won the court case, because now they've taken it away, now they've revoked his visa, but when he did win it, his family said it was the biggest victory of his career, bigger than all of his Grand Slams. Personally, I would just take the money. I'm perfectly happy with that. So yeah, anyway.
You're not fussed about moral victories, are you?
What?
They don't pay the bills, do they?
Morals and victories are things I'm not familiar with.
It's an important test case, though, isn't it? Not just in Australia, but globally, about whether you should have to demonstrate your vaccine status.
Yeah, and it's also a very very good example of just the government overreach that we're seeing in every aspect of people's lives. So they're really making a big fuss about this. When Djokovic is obviously he's young-ish. He's very healthy. Tennis isn't a contact sport, so it's actually there's very little risk from him coming into the country and playing in this tournament.
Yeah, fascinating story, which is going to run and run. Now, coming up, Korean missiles, China's simulated sun, and Dogecoin. I'll tell you about that after the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
You are watching Headliners with me, Mark Dolan. And as always, we're taking a romp through tomorrow's newspaper front pages tonight in the company of the talented and reassuringly expensive Josh Howie and Leo Kearse. Now, Kim Jong-un, a good friend of this show, is back at it again with his missiles for the third time in 9 days. So, Josh, tell me about the Rocket Man.
Yeah, I believe it was his birthday. So when it's around his birthday, he always sort of gets into these things. This is part of his policy. And he...
I get candles.
Yeah, you get candles. He gets missiles.
Yeah.
And that's how
Who
he
knew?
works. Yeah.
I think he's winning.
Yeah, I think he is winning. So he's launched a couple of missiles, and they supposedly are pretty good. They're pretty good. So
I mean, is it a sort of like a smaller scale equivalent to what Putin is doing, which is just sort of, flexing your muscles and saying, here I am, and we are a nuclear power?
I think so. I mean, yes, and I also think that. But there was a report, I think, from a week or two ago, where actually he was going to be pulling back on this stuff because people are starving in his country.
Yeah.
And
They don't eat missiles, do they?
well,
Not
no,
yet.
They might have to.
You might as well fire the missiles if you've made them, unless, they're going to scare the animals on the farms. But he's fired a huge amount of missiles, and they're pretty good missiles. So in the 10 years that he's been Supreme Leader, he's fired 119 or possibly 120 with this latest one. And in the 17 years that his father was Supreme Leader, his father only fired 16. So there's a huge increase.
What a
He's fired
loser.
way more. And they're good missiles. They go for miles. This one flew 430 kilometres and landed in Carlisle. Caused £10 worth of damage. No, and it landed near Japan's sort of zone.
Yeah.
No,
Not
that's a worry,
Japan
yeah.
itself, but near.
Why are they wasting all these
zone.
missiles? It's just wasting them.
But that's what they're supposed to do. That's what missiles do.
Yeah, just like, I'm just going to fire them off. Just like, it's just wasting.
But it's
I reckon he's got
like
more
fireworks,
wasting
isn't it? I mean,
possibly.
perhaps it's just public entertainment.
Maybe because he knows he can't really fire them at anything substantial.
Yeah.
So when he gets them, he just wants to fire them in at the sea near Japan, which is the equivalent. I remember there's a field in the village where we grew up, and we used to let the fireworks off there, and we knew it wasn't going to smash anybody's greenhouse. So
Yeah, I mean, Kim Jong-un, a relatively young man, so we've still got decades of this nonsense to put up with,
I don't know.
haven't
He
we?
seems to be.
he lost weight.
Don't call him fat, he's
I know.
curvaceous.
Don't body shame him. Oh my God, it's 2022.
You've got to say he's plus size. That's
He's
what you've got to
body
say.
positive.
Size,
He's
yeah.
a body positive Supreme Leader. He's the Supreme Leader we need.
But according to certain magazines, he would be still fit.
That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
He's
beautiful.
Yeah, did you see that story?
I did see that
Amazing,
story,
yes.
yeah.
He's a plus-size dictator.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that.
He's
No
the
way.
face of healthy dictators.
Too right. Now, if you're concerned about China's economic and political growth, the next story is bound to bring some heat to the discussion. Leo, should we be concerned?
Yes, possibly. China could be one step closer to achieving limitless clean energy through an experimental artificial sun that burned 5 times brighter than the real celestial body in a breakthrough test. This is in the Daily Express. They achieved a plasma temperature of, I don't think that's a television, a plasma temperature of 120 million degrees Celsius. So that's a temperature that
this
actually
is-
causes Prince Andrew to sweat.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
That's the point at which he breaks out.
Yeah.
I mean, look, China has given us the coronavirus, so they're very good at sort of making these remarkable agents. Maybe they could be trusted to build.
Well, I'm
these.
slightly worried about the safety standards in their labs. So far, they haven't
Well,
really
do you
proven
think they
themselves.
might let a bit of the sun out accidentally?
Well, I think, it's cost them $1 trillion for this so far. But the good news is they've managed to sell a bunch of these artificial suns to Newcastle tanning saloons.
Is that right?
Yeah. So
That's
they're gonna
very
make
good.
a lot of that money back.
Perhaps they could use them as floodlights at St James's Park as well.
Look at you, mate.
Wouldn't be a shout, would it?
Business, yeah.
Ka-ching, ka-ching. Brilliant stuff. Well, look, moving on, this next one is for crypto enthusiasts. Josh, tell me about Elon Musk and, is it called Dogecoin?
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Dog.
Is it dog?
Doge.
Doggy coin?
Doge.
Doge, apparently Doge, according to my team.
Okay, Dogecoin. Well, they've gone up 15% because he has said that you can now use them to buy stuff from his website, basically. And these are the things that you can buy on the Tesla's website. You can buy a quad bike for kids for basically £1,700. That's very reasonable. You can buy a whistle for $57. So this is and that's enough.
Is it a special whistle that only dogs can hear or something?
That only billionaires can hear.
Yeah, that's probably right.
And so I get very depressed with any of this stuff comes up because it's increased nearly 6,000% over the last 12 months.
Yeah.
So every time I hear, and I've got various people I
Yeah.
know who have invested and are now properly loaded, And I just wish that I was a bit nicer to them.
I know,
in the past.
definitely.
I wish that I'd maybe listened to them. And it's very, because then you can't stop. It's like house prices or whatever. When you sort of think, oh God, if only I'd bought it then. And you're sort of imagining what your life would be like.
Yeah. And annoyingly, the people who seem to be profiting from Bitcoin and cryptocurrency the most are like drug dealers or people who are buying drugs, because some drug dealers would accept payment in Bitcoin. And back in the day, one Bitcoin was like, 20 pence or something. So then you've got somebody who got 500 Bitcoin to buy a lump of hash or whatever, still had 20 Bitcoin left over, and now they're millionaires.
Yeah, definitely our conventional currencies appear to be under threat, don't they? I mean, even gold has got more sort of trust now in the international markets than, say, the pound sterling or the US dollar. Printing money.
Printing more inflation, and then we're getting inflation stuff.
Now you're talking.
You can tell I've been hanging out with some of the other hosts of this show.
Yeah, some of our economic superstars, Simon and Dominic. Well, look, will this whole vegan craze blow over? Let's talk about plant-based now. The market seems to think so. Leo, are you plant-based?
I am not plant-based. I am thoroughly meat-based. Vegan food isn't real food. It's the food you put on your plate next to your real food and you then scrape into the bin once you've eaten your real food. And people are starting to realise this because Beyond Meat, which is a company that makes fake burgers, so they're plant-based burgers designed to look like meat burgers. For some reason, nobody gets meat and tries to make it look like broccoli or cabbage, but they do it with vegetables because vegetables are horrible. So they're now being... This Beyond Meat company, this vegan food company, is now being shorted by investors who think that it's all going to collapse, and I think they could be right. So the short positions on Beyond Meat have increased 40% since late October, when the California-based company issued a revenue warning, and they've reported lower than expected sales. I think people are waking up to the fact that vegan food doesn't stop suffering. It just moves the suffering further up the food chain to the person eating the meat.
What bothers me about veganism is it's a bit like face masks, in that I've absolutely got no problem with the existence of face coverings. If you want to wear one, knock yourself out. Wear 2, wear 3. Dress as Darth Vader if you want when you go to Tesco, but please don't make me do it. And this is my problem with veganism, is I'm happy for people to go plant-based.
Masks, aren't they?
Well, there's a lot of that. eating broccoli whilst wearing a face covering. But the issue is that it feels like an agenda from the corporate world and from governments around the world that we've got to eat less meat to save the planet, and that means eating a lot of these very processed vegan foods.
Yeah, I've got to admit, I am trying to eat less meat, but on purely selfish level, because I want to lose a bit of weight. So
that's not the way to do it.
It's what, I should eat more meat?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you've got to go keto. That's the latest.
Yeah, carbs and sugar.
The greatest diet sensation.
Oh,
yeah,
really? Yeah.
But I mean, does it not bother you when supermarkets say, "Oh, do your bit for the planet, eat less meat, go vegan for a month"? I mean, we're in Veganuary at the moment.
I mean, I get bothered by the puns.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what winds me up. Also, the Financial Times says plant-based producer has ceased to be a growth company. Come on, guys. Stop with your jokes, please.
But do you know what I mean? I think this is my concern, Leo, is it's this idea of this sort of creeping authoritarianism which will decide how often we take flights, what car we drive, and what goes on our dinner plates.
Yeah, I mean,
that's why I push back on it.
We're a few years away from meat being seen as cigarettes. So you can do it, but there's extra taxes on it, and it's frowned upon in Islington. And
the behavioural scientists will get on board.
Yeah, the nudge unit.
The nudge unit will be suggesting.
I wonder if also the price that it's gone down a little bit because people know that there's going to be lab meat pretty soon. It's on its way, lab meat.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, it's absolutely. They're doing it. It's obviously
and that's where you basically you grow meat in a lab. What could possibly go wrong?
From the Wuhan laboratory.
Exactly. Coming right now. I've got some bats.
Imagine having a Wuhan steak burger.
Yeah.
Quite
That's
impressive.
The future.
There you go. Makes me salivate at the thought of it. Now, this one might seem a bit crude, but it's real. A Swedish town has decided to change its name. So, Leo, be gentle with us.
Yeah, so a Swedish village, I'm going to have to pronounce this correctly, Fuke?
Right.
Fuke.
And for those listening on DAB+, it's spelled F-U-C-K-E.
Yes.
So it could be misconstrued, couldn't it?
And it sits on the banks of
food.
Do you give a Fuke about this story?
Oh, very much so. Yeah. No, because there's a lot of name changes going on at the moment. And I think there has to be a little bit of where does it end? And why are they doing it? Anyway, but
some of the towns changed their names so that people don't go and steal the town sign.
Yeah, exactly. And
That's a big factor.
They've changed another town, I think, and now lots of people are really unhappy with it. I think there's a lot of tourism coming into some of these places, but just to take pictures of the sign as well. So I don't know.
I think it just demonstrates that we all need a bit of light relief. We all need a laugh, don't we? And I think they're quite killjoys to get rid of that.
I know, and there are some good examples. Sweden seems to have a dearth of these place names. There's a place called Sex Swamp. I'd like to
Don't Google it, folks.
Visit there. Cat's Bottom translates that. Snot Bog.
Yeah. And you can buy these all in IKEA.
Yeah, exactly, and assemble them yourselves.
That's exactly what they mean.
Well, we've got a few quite kinky named places, haven't we, here in the UK?
London.
In fact, there's more than one Bell End in the UK.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Quote me on that one. There's a few in charge of the country. Now, let's move on. Do you ever fancy dropping it all and going to live alone on a remote island? Well, Leo, you are a Scot, one of the most beautiful countries in the world. Tell us about this one.
Yes, so basically there's a job application with the National Trust. You can go to Canna, which is a Scottish island 23 miles out in the Atlantic and away from civilization, is hiring someone to run a guest house. So if you want some sort of Father Ted vibes, you can head off to this idyllic spot. I mean, they say it's idyllic, but you know it's going to be freezing for 11 months a year, and then you get bitten by midges for the remaining months. So it depends on your definition of idyllic, really. But there's been 100 applications for it because people want to get away from the rat race, I guess.
Well, have some people gained an appetite for solitude because of lockdown?
I guess so. I mean, there's only 15 people that live on the island, but what I like is that in the job advertisement, what they've asked for is people with good people skills.
What a waste of time.
It's like,
we need a team player.
I
mean, it's not enough people to form a football team, is it?
I don't know, I'm not really into football.
5-a-side.
Well, that would do it, just about. Well, look, Saturday's Mail are concerned about potholes. So, is this a whole lot of nothing, Josh?
Well, this is National Pothole Day. Supposedly potholes have gone up 19% on last year. Did something happen last year?
I wish I'd invested in potholes.
Who knew?
What happened last year possibly that meant there was less driving? But this interesting is that it's the RAC seems to be sort of pushing this. But surely it's not in the RAC's interest for them to fix the potholes. They're basically saying that pothole cases are going up and they're being called out to a lot more cases of cars being damaged from potholes. But surely they want cars to be damaged. Like that's their model.
It's their business model.
They want people to pay, but them not to have to go to the car.
So they're actually having to work for it.
They have to spend the money when they go to the car, but if they get the money, they're not doing anything.
It's a bit like
gym membership.
Apple sort of saying, we're desperately trying so hard to come up with a screen that doesn't break when you drop your iPhone on the floor.
Yeah.
Except they make millions from replaced iPhone screens.
And like a gym membership. The best customers are the people who pay for the membership and never go.
Yeah.
Use those iPhones. Put old iPhones in the potholes, and then.
You know what they should do with those gym memberships, the people that don't turn up? There should be a bit like in museums, a sort of lovely stone, sort of chiselled list of names.
Like a war memorial.
Yeah. Of all of Debbie, Big Debbie, Fat Steve. Do you know what I mean? All of these legends that paid for this building who never came. Known only unto God. Yeah. I mean, it's a thought, isn't it? But look, I mean, I think what's annoying about the pandemic is that they didn't do things like fixing potholes. If you're going to have less traffic, that's the time to give the country a lick of paint. But they didn't, did they?
No, absolutely. Although there was, when they were putting in some telephone wires, there was that funny video of someone being like attacking these two guys and sort of claiming that it was all like 5G and they were trying to kill everybody. It was just two blokes just trying to put up a phone line.
How would you improve things? I mean, if you could go back and take that opportunity of lockdown and clean the place up, I would have more bins in Britain. I think Britain hasn't got enough bins, and I would build a few more toilets as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's my vision for Britain.
Wow, OK, I sense a political career being launched.
But, I mean, are you guys affected by potholes? Any bumps in the road?
I would have built more missiles.
There you go.
Don't have enough missiles.
But
We've
it's-
got to fire them into the sea.
But you know what? It's because you ride it. You've got your moped, don't you?
Yeah.
It's for the people
There
who
you
are on
go.
their mopeds.
See?
I'm in my big car with my kids. We don't care about.
Of course you are with your Asbo kids.
Yeah.
They are lobbing missiles within the car. Well, look, my sincere thanks to the brilliant Leo Kearse and Josh Howie. We're back tomorrow with more headliners, and I'll be in the hot seat from 9. Thanks for your company. See you then.
Hello, fog and frost to start this weekend once again for many of us. Quite a lot of clouds then through the rest of the day on Saturday before it brightens up for many of us on Sunday. Now, high pressure has been with us for quite some time, still in charge of the weather at the moment, but we do have these weather fronts waiting in the wings, and they will start to influence our weather during the course of this weekend. But before then, fog and frost are the order of the day. Overnight tonight, reforming quite widely, particularly across parts of England and Wales. Central and eastern England particularly prone, I think, to some fairly dense fog patches tonight and into the start of the day tomorrow. And we do have a weather warning in force. Also a frost forming fairly extensively once again, perhaps not quite as chilly though as some recent nights. So Saturday will start on rather a grey note for many of us. Any fog slow to lift and likely to lift into low cloud rather than clear.